Good afternoon, everyone. We are day 2 at the Jasper Park Lodge for our 80th AGM and conference, and I am so thrilled to be joined by Janis Simpkins, who is the Vice President of Indigenous and Government Relations and Sustainability at Tolko Industries. I have to look at my notes to make sure I get it all right. How are you doing, Janis?
I am doing so good, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but this is officially our second podcast together, so I feel pretty honored that you've invited me back after the first time. It's great.
Honestly, there were no questions for us. We were thinking about, who would be so great to have on this, and we're so excited to have you with us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm in a great new gig. I'm loving it over at Tolko. So recently moved over to BC, working out of our head office in Vernon. And I really think that I have one of the coolest files. I think my colleagues tell me you have one of the most complex files, but you know what? Knitting all of those things together is what I absolutely love. And working with Indigenous peoples, working with government, and then really understanding what sustainability means across all contexts, right? Whether it's environment, whether it's communities. This industry is so cool because it is that sustainable industry, but it's about how do you carry that sustainability into your communities and into all of the work that you do. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to have this portfolio. I've been just so grateful for the career path that I've been on. And it's nice to be back here at JPL with everybody. And, it's more special to be sitting on the other side of the table, right? I used to work for AFPA. And so it was nice to always be there as a part of the board. And now to actually be sitting on the board as, the one and only female member, feel so welcomed in by that group. And, it's just amazing and phenomenal to be back.
That's so awesome. And we are so thrilled to have you here. You mentioned, how interesting the sustainability file is. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because this is something that, all of us in the sector are having a ton of conversations about. It's really, it's an emerging space in a way. I mean, there's lots kind of coming down the pipe. So could you tell us a little bit about, sustainability in your role and what that looks like and what are kind of the big things you're sinking your teeth into?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to talk about kind of the issues of sustainability, but I'll tell you this is how I think about sustainability. When I think about sustainability, it's about what's important to the people, what's important to our customers, what's important to our communities that we're working in, what's important to our employees, right? What does it make to be that employer of choice? And what do they really expect for us out of a purpose for an organization? And then how do we align all of those things that we can actually drive towards something and drive towards being better and actually realizing that purpose? So a lot of my focus in kind of the early days at Tolko is really trying to understand what that is. What do our customers expect of us and our products, right? What do employees really want to see? And having those kind of on the ground conversations. So what we do is real and meaningful and purposeful. And whether or not it's in kind of the energy and the emissions and the climate space and making sure that we're kind of reaching those goals, along with the rest of our colleagues in the sector and across other sectors, or even us as individuals. It's just a really, really interesting time to be a part of that and really defining what sustainability means for us as a sector. And it's changed, right? I mean, sustainability, we've always been a part of this cool, sustainable sector. So just to see how that's changing and just really see how people are thinking about it, that's where I've been spending my time.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Lots to unpack there. I mean, and how long have you been in your new role?
I've only been with Tolko now for 3 months. I can tell you, even though I've been in the industry for a bit and, I've been obviously worked with government, it's still like drinking through a fire hose every time. You're learning new people, new products, a new business, new way we do things. And it's been such a welcoming team though. They've, like the forest sector always has been, they're really quick to bring you in kind of under their wing and talk to you and teach to you, the new things, but also open to learning about some of the things, that I have to bring in the perspective that I bring to our table. So yeah, it's been just phenomenal.
That's awesome. So you mentioned, getting some of the perspectives from the folks, boots on the ground and trying to figure out what sustainability means for them. What are some of the things that you're hearing?
I mean, people want to be part of an industry that is doing something that is giving back. And whether that's giving back by ensuring that we're doing the right thing for the environment on the ground, nobody cares more about the forest and forest health and the environment and trees than foresters.
Absolutely.
The other piece is really thinking about, how do we give back to that climate, right? And we're thinking about how climate change, we're thinking about, our contributions to that, looking across our whole supply chain and really how we can change and how we can move the dial and how we can be a part of that solution. And certainly, nothing like working in nature to have a nature-based solution to climate change. And, we get to work with this wonderful product and, we're constantly planting trees and we are a part of that future. And so, sustainability really is about that. How are we going to contribute to that future generation? And how do we do our work and not leave a negative impact? How do we leave a positive impact? And this sector is absolutely doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned nature-based solutions, which I love, and something that, of course, is very much talked about in our sector. But for folks that might not be familiar with what that means, can you talk a little bit about nature-based solutions?
Absolutely. I mean, think about the products that you use, right? I mean, we, you may have built a deck over the last couple of years, enjoy your outside. Well, I mean, that deck is made of a product that is sustainable. It's made, it comes from trees that we can replant and we can, refurbish in the environment. And that's really, really important, I think. And you think if there's other products out there that maybe aren't as sustainable and they have nowhere to go when they're done and they don't store carbon. And, we know that trees store carbon and we know that our products do that. And that's really important.
Yeah. Awesome. Another thing that I want to chat with you a little bit about is the Indigenous relations side of things. Can you talk about maybe some of the partnerships that you're seeing in your role?
There is nothing more important than I think Indigenous relations and partnerships. We see that it's really, it's really cool that we're having, this conference tomorrow being the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and a great lineup of speakers to really honor that and really understand that. And what I love about kind of working in the Indigenous space is really trying to understand our shared history and understanding how we can work together. And we think a lot about, at Tolko, we think a lot about our Indigenous relationships. It's not just transactional. It's not just about what can I do for you and what can you do for me. It's really about what are those shared values? What are the ways that we're can work together to create those shared decisions on the land? How can we create an economic benefit for the community? Going back to that sustainability piece, right? It carries over into all of those different elements. And so, we've had some great successful partnerships, whether they be joint venture logging companies. So those companies that actually, we just actually have a new one in Saskatchewan that we're really excited about. And it's a way for us to work and connect directly with the community and provide them kind of that long-term sustainable benefit, but also being a part of the work and being a part of what we do, right? I love that level of integration. And, the other piece is really as we, learn and work with kind of our Indigenous communities and Indigenous peoples, we're learning so much about the new stewardship opportunities. How do we really incorporate that traditional knowledge into some of the work that we're already doing? And again, if there's anything that we have in common, it's how important the land base is to us and how much we want to work with those communities to truly understand that. And how can we work together as we move forward? And so we're spending a lot of time in that space. I'm certainly learning every day. We work with numerous Indigenous communities across BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan. They're all very, very different and, they're all very unique. And I'm just enjoying the different perspectives that they're bringing to my learning and thinking. And our whole entire company as an organization is really focused on, how can we work together as we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, in 3 short months, it sounds like you have really got right into
fast,
it.
Right?
Yeah, no doubt. Has there been any kind of particular surprises or big kind of wow moments for you learning more and more about that side of things?
I think for me, I grew up, so I'm born and raised in Saskatchewan, spent most of my adult life in Alberta, and now, I'm working with a company that has a big footprint in BC. And so, I don't necessarily would say it's a surprise, but what I would say is that each jurisdiction is so different. And whether it be the Indigenous communities and their history, whether it be government and how government's view of kind of those big policy rocks that they're trying to push or their big policy agenda, it's very different. And that means as a company, we need to be super nimble. We need to be able to understand that we're working in a different landscape everywhere we are. And how do we consider that and kind of how we work our plans as we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Janis, you were mentioning some of the activities that we have planned tomorrow for the second National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And I see you've got some lapel pins there to kind of participate in those conversations. Can you tell me a little bit about those and why it's important to show that?
Yeah, I think it's really important, both for myself individually as a person. I'm learning more and more about history. I'm learning more about, how the actions of our past have really played a role generationally across our communities. And certainly the orange shirt itself is such a powerful story. And for me, it's important to not forget that. I like to wear the pins because I think it's important that people, know that they can come and talk to me, and I have an interest in understanding and learning more. And I want to show, both my acknowledgement and, my appreciation for the strength that our Indigenous peoples and our communities have shown throughout history and are showing, now and even, their willingness to spend time with me and teach me and help me to understand their perspectives. And it's so important for us to really learn and to listen and to understand what that's done, generationally. And how we can be a part of not forgetting and not letting the history repeat itself, and that we're a part of kind of providing hope for children in the future, that we are all going to move forward together. And it is, I love my job because it's exposed me to a world that I never knew. I've spent the last 20 years working in a number of different communities, and it's just such a humbling experience, and it's so meaningful. And, for me, wearing the pins is just one way to kind of demonstrate that, but is really how I try to live my life every day, and learning more and showing that acknowledgement for that history.
So, Janis, you mentioned earlier that this is now the second time that we've had the opportunity to get together in a podcast format and have conversations, and so much has changed, right? Let's talk about that.
Sure. So here's a couple of things that have changed. There is no ability in this podcast to overthink and overanalyze my answers. The first time around we did this, you'll remember we had 2 full days. The first day, went through, it was great, came back the next day to redo some things and realized, oh my God, we have to do this whole thing over again. So, we've gained some sophistication. And, the other thing I would say is that, you've also been promoted to the Director of Communications for AFPA. And that's just a testament to the good work that you're doing, and that, you see cool forums like this and we can have an interesting conversation. And I just really appreciate what you bring to the table. So yeah, a couple things that have changed, I guess, since we've been here last. And no plexiglass.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so nice to truly be together.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
you know what? That's the one thing I will say about, being here at AFPA. So this is the, first conference, I think, in the last 3 years now, and they've had to take a bit of a break. And it is so good to be here and to be shaking hands and just to see some friendly faces and the smiles. The energy is absolutely, it's off the hook, if I could say that.
Totally.
It just feels so good to engage with everybody and, to see some old friends and make some new friends. And it's just been an awesome couple of days.
Yeah, it really has been. I think we've all been kind of feeling that energy. And, I made this comment last time, but it's still so funny to me. Jason always says, we have to make lots of room for collision space, which I think is the best way to put it ever. But so we've had an opportunity to connect with some of our colleagues, with industry leaders, with government. That's pretty incredible, I think. Have you had some good conversations with all those kind of folks?
I've had some great conversations. The one real cool thing about this industry is how aligned we are. We're really moving forward together. I felt that at the board meetings yesterday. You can really tell that we're digging into the issues in a really meaningful way. We have government here. It's great to have them engaged in some of the big policy agenda and some of the policy challenges that we're working through. And it's really, really interesting to be able to have conversations with them that are very solutions focused. And that's what I love about this industry, is that, we're advocates. We love the industry. We love what we do. We believe in it. I believe in it. But we believe in making things better. And so we want to be a part of the solution. And what I've seen happening, upstairs is that, I've seen those really robust conversations. And, if you ever walk by me and my hands are flying, I'm really engaged in one, because I tend to do that when I talk. I've had a few people point that out to me. So, but, we're seeing so much of that. And it's when you can come together in those collision spaces, that's where relationships grow. And there's nothing more important than relationships. I tell people my career has been one of relationships. And the most important thing to me is the opportunities that I've had along the way to learn from people and to grow. And, I'm just seeing that happen upstairs, and it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought up relationships, because this brings me to something that I really wanted to chat with you about. So much has changed for both of us since we last worked together. And I remember when you first came to the AFPA and I met you, and I was like, holy crap, this is a woman who she comes in and she means business. She knows what's up. And I immediately saw you as a role model. And then we had that opportunity to do the podcast together, which was so incredible, talking about, knowing your value, knowing your worth. And even outside of what was recorded in that session, you and I had some really kind of personal conversations about what it means to be, a woman in the sector, a young woman in the sector, pursuing those leadership opportunities. And it's been so inspiring to watch your career grow. And it's been so fabulous.
You know what? I thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I hope you know that you've been a much of a mentor to me as maybe you feel I have been to you. There's, I learned so much, and I'm so inspired by, the young women that are coming up through, through forestry, through communications, through, so many different careers. And it's really important that we support each other. And I really feel that in the industry, not just from the women, but also from the many men, that make up these, that are, fill the hall upstairs. And, they love that diversity of thought, and they're very open to it, and they're they want to lift. I feel they want to lift me up as much as I want to lift others up, and it's just been such a remarkable ride, and I feel so supported and so grateful and just so humbled by the amazing people that I'm surrounded by every day and that support me. So thank you so much for that, Aspen.
Yeah, of course. And I agree. It's a great space to be a part of. I always say that the forestry community is a community like no other.
Yeah. And, we need to get, I'd love to see more women in. It was so great. We've got some students here from, and, you see that we got both men and women kind of coming up the ranks, and they're just seeing the opportunities. And I think it's going back to the first part of our conversation, we talk about sustainability and the impact that we want to have on, future generations to come. And I think people see this industry as a place that they can go and they can have that impact. And it's important that we continue to tell that story, and, we continue to kind of grow the leadership within this industry. And, I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more, Janis. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Do you have anything else that you would like to chat about before we wrap up?
Do you know what? I think we covered it all, but I will say again, it's so great to see you here. It's so great to see this, phenomenal conference come together. Again, it's just been overwhelming. The reception just upstairs and seeing the people come together and collide and those relationships grow. And I think we've got a bright future. So thank you so much for having me back. And yeah, I can't wait to be called up to do another one of these in the future. We'll see where we are.
Sounds good. Thank you, Janis. And I look forward to it.
Thank you so much.